I think longer term, if this is a longer term phenomenon, if the markets sell off and the disruption in what we're seeing with the coronavirus in the global economy leads to a U.S. recession, then I think it upsets the conventional wisdom that is prevailing, which is that Trump is the favorite to win in November. Then it calls into question his chances.
Right.
So but let's see how this plays out. I mean, I think going into the last weekend, I don't think anybody saw this kind of severe sell-off coming, and we don't know how long-term any of this is. So I think there are a lot of open questions.
One follow-up on that, though, and often we talk about the recession as a binary scenario, but we're talking already about probably a 1% handle or print for first quarter GDP. If this lingers now as people react with the CDC headlines out there today into the second quarter, that's again going right into the middle of campaign season. How long of sub 3% growth will it take to have a similar effect as if we were in a recession in terms of the president's reelectability?
A lot of times there is a lag between economic performance and how it flows through into politics. I mean, 92, the economy was already recovering. Didn't help President Bush Bush 41 get reelected, even though we were 3% or higher in GDP growth already. We just didn't realize it. Let's see how close it is to the election, how much lag it takes for if there is a severely slowing economy, how it flows through. And on the other side, what kind of distress do voters feel going into the election, that if it is a Sanders-Trump choice, how much trust people have going towards a Democratic socialist candidate. I mean, it's new ground that no one has seen in the United States. So these are open questions. Look, if Mr. Trump's economic approval numbers start to deteriorate, then I think he is in some trouble. That is his strong point. His overall job approval numbers have improved, but they're still mediocre compared to a lot of predecessors. His economic numbers are terrific. There's a disconnect. If the economy starts to teeter and his economic numbers start to head back towards his overall approval numbers, then I'm less confident in his chances of being reelected.
But I wonder, Brian, voters are pretty smart, in lots of ways, collectively. Individual voters may not be smart, but collectively I think they are pretty smart. And I wonder whether voters, if the economy starts to deteriorate in the United States because of coronavirus, I wonder whether voters would blame President Trump for that. I mean, he had nothing to do with it, with that happening.
Tyler, I think you raise a great point. Elections are decided at the margins. So it is how does the marginal voter change? We're in a highly partisan era where the Trump base and the Democratic base, who, regardless of who their candidate is going to be, they are locked in. At the margins, the undecideds, how are they going to change? And we in the last election, where you had the winner losing the popular vote but winning the Electoral College, which is what matters, but winning that Electoral College basically by 3 states with less than 100,000 vote differential total. 10,000 in the state of Michigan. So we're talking about the collective wisdom, but the real question is the marginal voter. The voter in Michigan, how do they change their minds? Does this impact more than 10,000 people that switch back to the Democratic Party? I don't know. I mean, these are questions that, again, have to play out over time. If it's Bernie Sanders, I would argue that Democrats are in real trouble, regardless of the economy, because you were talking in a previous segment with Brian about fracking. Senator Sanders wants to ban fracking. Doesn't play well in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so it's a key state for Democrats to hold on to. So you have the corona issue, the economy, policy agendas from various candidates, how they play into specific states.
Well, it's very interesting. Kelly had a guest on last hour at the very end who was saying that if you take through some of the policies that, on the left, that would be a Medicare for all kind of thing, just watch and see how many hospitals go out of business.
Absolutely.
If Medicare rates are then the law of the land for repayment to hospitals or to doctors. And what happens then to to a company in Senator Klobuchar's Minnesota like United Health. They're going to lay off. That's jobs, man.
Right. But, you know, I thought it was an interesting anecdote over the weekend because going back to the Nevada caucuses and the Democratic caucuses, and the Culinary Workers Union sat out, basically didn't endorse, but Senator Sanders did extraordinarily well with labor. Despite the attacks that he is going to take away their gold-plated health care plans, which they have fought for through collective bargaining, and replace it for Medicare for all. And the anecdote I want to bring in is one of the union workers and voters saying that, you know, well, if he lost his job, he would have nothing, and he kind of likes the Sanders plan because it's a backup of guaranteeing him a health care plan. I'm not arguing in favor of that. I'm just pointing out that's how some voters think about it. I hear your point on jobs, but if the economy deteriorates because of what we're going through and economic anxiety starts to pick up and people become more worried about their futures and they're looking for economic security, can I see a scenario in which there is a movement towards Sanders by some blue-collar workers because they think that he's going to his proposals take care of them longer term? That's a viable argument. I'm not willing to say it's going to happen, but certainly it's more viable than I think a lot of people think it is.